I never thought I'd be writing this, but after everything that's happened, I need to get it off my chest. 3 months ago, I stood in the doorway of my childhood home, watching my parents fawn over my sister's engagement ring, while I clutched an envelope containing my medical school acceptance letter, the one they were too busy to open. Today, I'm sitting in my new apartment, finally free from their shadow, wondering if I was wrong to expose the truth that shattered our family's perfect image. Growing up, I was always the responsible one. My sister Ellie was 4 years younger, beautiful, outgoing, and, according to my parents, special in ways I could never be. While I was expected to maintain perfect grades, help with housework, and basically raise myself, Ellie received endless attention, praise, and resources. I remember when I was 16, I needed $300 for a science competition that could have led to scholarship opportunities. My parents told me they couldn't afford it, and suggested I babysit to earn the money. That same month, they spent $2,000 on Ellie's dance competition outfit because she had a real chance at winning. She came in 7th. This pattern continued throughout my life. When I graduated high school as valedictorian, my parents skipped the ceremony because Ellie had a minor cold. When I got into college with a partial scholarship, they barely acknowledged it, saying they were disappointed I hadn't secured a full ride. Meanwhile, Ellie's C-average report cards were celebrated with dinners out because she was trying her best. I told myself it was fine. I convinced myself that maybe I really was less deserving of their attention. Maybe I was too self-sufficient, too boring, too ordinary. I buried myself in my studies and worked multiple jobs to put myself through college, telling myself that their approval didn't matter. After college, I moved back home temporarily while applying to medical schools. That's when I noticed something that had always been there but I'd never fully processed: photos. Our house was filled with framed pictures of Ellie, her dance recitals, her prom, her graduation. There were exactly 3 photos of me: my birth announcement, a family portrait when I was 7, and my high school graduation photo that I had paid for and framed myself. She glanced up from her phone where she was scrolling through Ellie's Instagram. What? Oh, well, you never liked having your picture taken? She sighed, clearly annoyed by the conversation. Honey, not everything is a competition between you and your sister. You've always been so independent and focused on your studies. Ellie needs more encouragement. That was always their justification. Ellie needed more. I needed less. As if love and attention were finite resources that had to be rationed, and I somehow deserved the smaller portion. I might have continued accepting this reality if not for what happened next. 3 months ago, I received my acceptance letter to medical school. After years of hard work, countless all-nighters, and 3 attempts at the MCAT, I had finally achieved my dream. I was ecstatic. For once, I wanted my parents to be proud of me. Really proud. Not just in the dismissive way they usually acknowledged my achievements. That same day, Ellie announced her engagement to her boyfriend of 6 months. He was nice enough, though they'd broken up twice already for cheating, on both sides. Still, he had proposed with a flashy ring, and suddenly nothing else mattered in our household. I came home, clutching my acceptance letter, ready to share my news, only to find my parents and Ellie in the living room, champagne already flowing. Mom, Dad, I have something to tell you, I said, trying to contain my excitement. Oh, honey, did you hear? Ellie's engaged, my mother exclaimed, not even looking at me as she admired the ring on Ellie's finger. We're thinking a spring wedding, Ellie interrupted. Maybe April? I'll need help with the planning, of course. I stood there, envelope in hand, completely invisible. Finally, I placed the letter on the coffee table. My father glanced at the envelope. That's nice, honey. We can talk about that later. This is Ellie's moment. Later never came. The next few weeks were consumed with engagement party planning, venue visits, and endless discussions about Ellie's wedding. My achievement was acknowledged with a brief "good job" from my father, and a distracted "we always knew you'd get in somewhere" from my mother. The breaking point came during the engagement party. My parents had spent nearly $5,000 on it, more than they had contributed to my entire college education. I was assigned to check guests in at the door, essentially working the event rather than participating in it. Yes, both our girls are doing so well. Ellie's getting married, of course, and Sarah's going back to school for something. She's always been the studious type. Later, when I brought drinks to their table, one of my mother's friends asked me directly about medical school. Before I could answer, my mother interrupted. Oh, it's just a local program, nothing prestigious. But we're proud she's found something to occupy her time. I stood there, drinks in hand, as something inside me finally broke. 26 years of being diminished, overlooked, and treated as less than suddenly crystallized into perfect clarity. This would never change. I would always be the afterthought, the footnote, in my own family story. Telitatelum hidminitus. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced my childhood bedroom, looking at the bare walls, while Ellie's room remained preserved like a shrine, even though she had her own apartment. I started going through old boxes of my belongings, and that's when I found it. My parents' will from 10 years ago that had been mistakenly packed with my high school memorabilia during a cleaning spree. Curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it. What I read stunned me. They had left Ellie 80% of their estate, including the house and all investments. I was to receive 20%, and even that came with stipulations about how it could be used, specifically for continuing education or career development. Ellie's portion had no such restrictions. My father's face darkened. You had no right to look at that. It's private. It was with my things. I found it by accident. But that's not the point. Why is there such a disparity? My mother sighed. Sarah, you've always been so practical and responsible. You'll be fine no matter what. Ellie needs more security. I've worked 3 jobs to put myself through school while you paid Ellie's rent. How exactly am I more secure? You're being dramatic, my father said. We've always treated you both equally. That's when I laughed. Actually, laughed out loud. Equally? Are you serious? Name one time you've treated us equally. They couldn't. Instead, they deflected, accused me of jealousy, and suggested I was being selfish for making Ellie's engagement period all about me. I realized then that nothing would ever change. The dynamic was too entrenched, too comfortable for them. I was the responsible one who needed nothing, expected nothing, and received nothing. I spent the next week gathering evidence. Bank statements, showing the financial disparity in how they'd supported us. Text messages where they'd canceled plans with me to attend Ellie's events. Emails where they'd dismissed my achievements. I created a detailed spreadsheet documenting the inequity, money spent on Ellie versus me, time devoted to each of us, celebrations held, support given. Then I called a family meeting. I invited my parents, Ellie, our grandparents, and a few close aunts and uncles, people who had always believed my parents' narrative about our perfect equal family. When everyone was seated in our living room, I distributed copies of my documentation. I've called you all here because I'm leaving, I began. I'm moving out tomorrow, and I wanted to explain why. For the next 30 minutes, I methodically presented my case, not with anger, but with calm, factual precision. I showed them photos of Ellie's fully funded college apartment versus my shared dorm room. I showed them the will. I showed them the difference in birthday gifts, in time spent, in attention given. I'm not doing this to hurt anyone, I concluded. I'm doing this because I need you all to understand why I won't be around much anymore. I'm starting medical school in the fall, and I need to focus on building a life where I'm valued. The room was silent. My grandparents looked shocked. My aunts and uncles uncomfortable. My parents were pale with anger and embarrassment. Ellie was crying, though whether from guilt or from having the spotlight taken from her engagement, I couldn't tell. How dare you, my father finally said. After everything we've done for you. That's exactly my point, Dad. What exactly have you done for me that I haven't done for myself? My grandmother stood up then. I'd always been close to her, though she lived several states away and wasn't often involved in our day-to-day lives. I think Sarah has made some valid points, she said quietly. I've noticed some of this over the years, but I assumed I was missing context. What followed was 2 hours of painful family discussion. My parents alternated between defensive anger and attempts to minimize what I'd shown. Ellie vacillated between tears and accusations that I was trying to ruin her engagement. But my extended family saw the truth, and for the first time, so did I. With complete clarity, I moved out the next day. My grandmother helped me find an apartment near the medical school and offered to help with expenses. 2 of my aunts called to apologize for not seeing the pattern sooner. My grandfather, my father's father, was particularly upset and told me he would be having words with my dad. My parents' reaction was predictable. They accused me of turning the family against them, of exaggerating, of being ungrateful. They demanded I apologize to Ellie for ruining her special time. When I refused, they threatened to cut me off completely, a threat that made me laugh given how little they had provided in the first place. 3 months have passed since then. I'm settled in my new apartment, preparing for medical school, and slowly building a life defined by my own terms, rather than by my role as the responsible one in my family's dysfunctional dynamic. Ellie reached out last week. Her engagement has been called off. Apparently, her fiancé cheated again. She wanted to stay with me until she figures things out. I declined. For the first time in my life, I set a boundary without guilt or explanation. It felt revolutionary. My parents haven't spoken to me directly, though they've sent several messages through relatives suggesting I'm tearing the family apart and that I need to get over myself. My grandmother tells me they're struggling with the family's changed perception of them. Their perfect parent image has been tarnished, and they don't know how to reconcile that with their self-identity. Part of me feels guilty. Did I go too far in exposing them so publicly? Would a private conversation have been enough? But then I remember 26 years of private conversations that led nowhere, of swallowed pain, of achievements celebrated alone. I don't know what the future holds for my relationship with my family. Perhaps, with time and distance, we can build something new. Something based on mutual respect rather than established roles. Or perhaps this is the end of that chapter of my life. Witamavel. Build some builds. Either way, I'm finally visible. To my extended family, to my friends, and most importantly to myself. I'm no longer the invisible daughter, the responsible one, the afterthought. I'm just Sarah, medical student, independent adult, and person worthy of recognition. I didn't expect to be writing an update, but so much has happened that I wanted to share. First, thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. Your support helped me stay strong during some difficult moments. Medical school is challenging but fulfilling. I found my people here, driven, passionate students who understand the value of hard work and who celebrate each other's achievements. For the first time, I'm in an environment where my dedication is seen as a strength, not something to be taken for granted. 2 months after I moved out, my grandmother invited me to lunch. When I arrived, my parents were there too, an ambush intervention of sorts. I nearly walked out, but my grandmother asked me to give them 15 minutes. Out of respect for her, I stayed. People. My father spoke first. He was stiff, uncomfortable, but what he said surprised me. We've been talking to a family therapist, he began, at your grandmother's insistence. And we've realized some things. My mother nodded. We didn't see it. We really didn't. We thought we were doing what was best for both of you based on your different needs. My father looked down. We told ourselves you were strong, independent, that you didn't need us the way she did. It was easier that way. For us, my mother admitted quietly, the truth is you remind me so much of myself at your age. The ambition, the drive, I gave all that up when I had children. Seeing you pursue your dreams, it was a reminder of what I didn't do. It wasn't a perfect apology. It was messy and incomplete and self-centered in many ways. But it was honest, perhaps the first truly honest conversation we'd ever had. Abesk, they asked if I would consider joining them for family therapy. I told them I would think about it. Abesk and Mao. A week later, I received a letter from Ellie. Unlike my parents, her words showed little self-awareness. She accused me of being jealous of her natural charisma, and said I had always been competitive with her. But toward the end of the letter, there was a glimmer of something else. I never asked for them to treat us differently, she wrote. But I never stopped it either. I liked being the favorite. I'm not sure I know who I am without that. I agreed to one family therapy session, which was about as awkward and painful as you might expect. My parents struggled to acknowledge the extent of their favoritism. Ellie vacillated between defensiveness and tears. But it was a start. We've had 3 more sessions since then. Progress is slow, measured in small moments rather than grand gestures. My father has started asking about medical school with what seems like genuine interest. My mother sent me a care package during finals week, the first unsolicited gift I can remember receiving from her in years. Ellie and I had coffee last month, just the 2 of us. It was tense at first, but eventually, she admitted something I hadn't expected. I always thought you had it better, she said. They expected nothing from me, which meant they thought I was capable of nothing. At least they believed in you. It was a perspective I'd never considered. The golden child has her own cage, it seems. As for the extended family, the dynamics have shifted significantly. My aunts and uncles check in with me regularly now. My grandfather has become one of my biggest supporters, even starting a small fund to help with my medical school expenses, something he said he should have done years ago. The most unexpected development came last month. My parents updated their will. They didn't tell me. My grandmother did. They've adjusted the distribution to be equal between Ellie and me. without stipulations or conditions for either of us. Sin. It's not about the money. It never was. It's about being seen as equal, as worthy of the same consideration. But I'm not naive enough to think everything is fixed. 26 years of patterns don't change in 6 months. There are still uncomfortable moments, still times when I feel the old dynamics trying to reassert themselves. My parents sometimes slip into their old habits. Ellie occasionally tries to make everything about her. But now, I speak up. I set boundaries. I leave when I need to. And sometimes, they actually listen. I don't know if we'll ever have the kind of close-knit family I used to dream about as a child. Some wounds are too deep, some patterns too ingrained, but we're finding a new way to exist in each other's lives, one based on who we actually are, rather than the roles we were assigned. As for me, I'm discovering who I am outside of being the responsible one, the overlooked one, the invisible daughter. I'm making friends who know nothing of my family history and see me simply as Sarah. I'm dating someone who celebrates my achievements without qualification or comparison. I'm learning that my worth isn't determined by how others value me. Sometimes, being seen requires making yourself impossible to ignore. Sometimes, healing begins only after you've exposed the wound to air. And sometimes, the family you build for yourself becomes the model for what your original family might someday become. I'm still the responsible one. I'm still driven, still ambitious. But now, those are traits I claim with pride, rather than qualities that define my place in a dysfunctional system. The invisible daughter is gone. I see myself clearly now. And slowly, others are beginning to see me too.